Black Op Radio presents 50 Reasons for 50 Years. Why the Warren Commission may be the greatest fraud perpetrated on the American public. Now your host, Len Osanic.
In this episode, we again expose the myth that the Warren Commission had things right. Evidence discovered by House Select Committee investigators is a smoking gun of a high-level plot to blame the assassination on either the Cubans or the Russians. This plot began a full 2 months before the assassination. On Monday, November 25th, 1963, a man named Gilberto Alvarado walked into the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City and told a sensational story of being inside the Cuban consulate 2 months earlier and witnessing a man he identified as Lee Harvey Oswald speaking with consulate officials with whom he was said to appear very comfortable. Alvarado, also known as informant T-32, overheard a conversation and saw money change hands. Following up on this story, the local CIA station generated memos hyping Alvarado's legitimacy. But by the end of the week, Alvarado had admitted that the whole story was at best a mistaken identification. And Alvarado was only one of several persons in Mexico, Florida, and other places to publicly appear days after the assassination to link Oswald with Cuba. House Select Committee investigators working in the 1970s had discovered most of the individuals who pushed these claims back in 1963 traced directly to CIA operative David Atlee Phillips, who was in charge of operations against Cuba and based in the CIA's Mexico City office. Phillips' boss was James Angleton, who was in charge of the counterintelligence branch of the CIA. The counterintelligence office was where the CIA's 201 information file on Oswald was kept. In September 1963, someone had created a new operational file, and information on Oswald became separated between the two files. The result was that FBI reports on Oswald's New Orleans activities were routed to the new operational file, but not to Oswald's 201 file. The person in control of both files was James Angleton. At the end of September, Oswald, or a person identifying himself as Oswald, appeared at the Cuban and Soviet consulates in Mexico City, meeting with officials to arrange a travel visa to Cuba. On October 8th, the Mexico City office of the CIA produced its first cable noting Oswald's visits. It reported that on October 1st, in a phone call to the Russian consulate, Oswald spoke of meeting with a consular official named Kostakov. A physical description of Oswald was also included, a description which is clearly wrong. Oswald's visits to the Cuban consulate were not mentioned at all. On October 10th, CIA headquarters responded that the subject identified in Mexico City was probably the same person as the 201 file subject Lee Henry Oswald, but noted the vastly different physical description. This response also noted that the latest information on Oswald was from May 1962 regarding his return from the Soviet Union. This was not true, but appeared so because information received after May 1962 was now in the second file. On that same day, CIA headquarters addressed a cable to the State Department, the FBI, the INS, and Naval Intelligence reporting Oswald's contacts with the Soviets in Mexico City, including a false physical description, but omitting any mention of consular official Kostakov. On October 16th, the Mexico CIA station followed up by falsely claiming they had no clarifying information on the Oswald visit. On October 24th, CIA headquarters contacted the Navy asking if they had any photos on Oswald to assist in identifying the man from Mexico City, even though they already had Oswald's photo in the 201 file. By withholding information, the counterintelligence office of the CIA created a sense of confusion and uncertainty over who exactly was in Mexico City. And by removing the Cuban consulate from the discussion, it ensured there was no urgency to the matter and Oswald would not be subject to the routine security measures identifying potential threats in Dallas. By doing this, all the lights which should have been shining on Oswald were deliberately dimmed ahead of the assassination. And then, on November 22nd, the lights went back on. The second file on Oswald suddenly appeared and revealed that the prime suspect in the president's murder had been attempting to obtain travel documents for Cuba just weeks earlier. The following day, Soviet consular official Kostakov was revealed as not just a KGB agent, but the man in charge of sabotage and assassination programs in the Western Hemisphere. It appears that the deliberate withholding of information regarding Oswald's alleged visit to Mexico City by the counterintelligence office of the CIA was part of a plot to pin the assassination on the Cubans and the Soviets, and that this effort was underway 2 months before November 22nd. Many researchers believe that if Oswald had been killed rather than captured in the aftermath of the assassination, the information in these CIA files would have led to an immediate attack on Cuba. Instead, FBI agents in Dallas listened to the tapes of Oswald from Mexico City and determined the voice did not match and that Oswald had been impersonated. So, although further attempts were made to create links to the Cubans, the idea that Oswald had no fellow conspirators in Dallas soon gave way to the concept that Oswald had no fellow conspirators at all.
Stay tuned for the next installment as we expose week after week 50 lies the Warren Commission would like you to believe.